Hello, welcome, and thank you for watching this month's Tarot Talk. I'm intuitive reader Bryan Stafford from Stafford Tarot and Soul Intention, and today's Tarot Talk topic is going to be about a quick introduction on demystifying tarot. Now, before we get into that Tarot Talk discussion, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's new at Soul Intention and Stafford Tarot and some of the upcoming workshops and events that you can look forward to in the next month or so. And then we'll get right into that Tarot Talk topic. And then I'll be doing, offering free short remote readings to anyone who shows interest in the chat during this broadcast. So at any time, if you're viewing and you're watching and you would like to receive a reading, you can write interested in the chat. I will watch for that and add that name to the list. I will go in the order that the names appear. If I forget someone, or if I don't mention or don't notice that you've written in the chat, please just reach out, let me know, rewrite it in the chat. I will mention that I've seen it so that you're aware that you will be coming up next for your reading. Anyone that I do miss, I do preview and watch the recordings after to make sure I didn't miss anybody. And if I did, for whatever reason, I will reach out to you after and offer you a remote distant reading. Now, the difference between a distant remote reading and or a distant reading and a remote reading is that when I'm in a remote reading, it's one-on-one. So it's more like a video interaction. You have more opportunity to ask questions, get more feedback. The reading's more dynamic. Whereas a distant remote reading is like on this broadcast, it's just having viewers and it's really a one-way conversation. I just receive a topic or question, and you can give very little feedback through the chat, but it's mostly just to receive a quick one-way reading that way. So the remote readings are much more interactive, and anyone who doesn't make it on the list, I will be adding you to the draw where you can receive a remote reading, but I will get to that. Thank you so much, Jody. It's good to see you. I will add you to the list. And anyone else who might be interested, just let me know. Perfect. You'll be first when we get started. Now, if anyone is watching this broadcast from my website or after it's been posted, and you're just interested to watch the sample readings, feel free to just skip ahead about 20-30 minutes, as that's when roughly we will be starting those remote reading sessions. Now, in the meantime, give some time for some viewers to join me. What's new? Well, I love talking about the weekly services that we have available at Soul Intention. Soul Intention is located in Guelph, Ontario at 497 Woolwich Street. From Monday to Saturday, you can get charms, runes, and tarot readings. Both my business partner Cynthia Cole and I do tarot readings in the store. On Tuesdays, we have Janice Moffat in to do mediumship sessions. She's usually available anytime from 11 till 6, so you can just inquire about that availability. We also have Maxim Prishnin coming in at 5 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays to offer palm reading sessions, and that's been really interesting and very well received. We also have on Tuesdays as well, starting at 7 p.m., we have Cynthia Cole's self-awareness workshops, which take place every week. Every week there's a different discussion topic and lots to get involved with. Then on Wednesdays, we have Reiki sessions with Marcelo Rivero's Reiki Master from 11 till 6. Again, you can inquire about that availability. And then at 8 o'clock on every Wednesday, we do the Sacred Meadow Circle virtual gathering. This gathering takes place over Zoom. It starts at 8 o'clock p.m. We all discuss a interested topic of discussion, and in order to receive that link, you must register. So take a look at the information at askagraywitch.com, click on gatherings, and you can register for that event. There's also links available through the Soul Intention website, soulintention1111.ca. You do have to register an email address to receive that link. The link gets sent out through email about 15 minutes before the start time for everyone to join. We do it that way simply to avoid any scammers or any kind of fraudulent entry into the meetings. The meetings are considered confidential and personal, and just for like-minded individuals to get together and talk about their involvement in the craft and the occult and mystical topics like tarot. And then on Thursdays, we have Christine Wiles, astrologer, offering astrology readings, as well as she has many other gifts like Reiki and other modalities that you can take a look at. All that information is available on the Soul Intention website. Thanks, Alex. Absolutely. I can put your name down as well. Good to see you. And anyone else who might be interested to receive a free remote distant reading later in the broadcast, just let me know. I'll watch for your name to come up. Also, if there are any questions whatsoever, either during the discussion topic or afterwards or about the readings, feel free to just enter them into the chat. I will try to watch for those as well. So some of the upcoming workshops to look forward to are at Soul Intention in person. We have the Ritual Candle Workshop, which is going to take place on Thursday, October 16th, 2025. It's going to start about 7 o'clock Eastern Time. It's $40 a participant. It's going to be a great event. Really looking forward to that. On October 21st, I will be releasing the New Moon Oracle Poll. That gets released on staffordtarot.com as well as soulintention1111.ca. It's a two-card draw simply to go with the energies of the moon and the environment at the time to help just the general public. Hi, Meg. Absolutely. I can put you down in the list as well. Thank you for that. It's also lovely to see you again on the broadcast. Where was I? Oh, yes. On Thursday, October 23rd, starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We have Marcela Riveros doing a sacred geometry workshop. This is going to be really exciting. I love the way that Marcela connects sacred geometry with natural elements of sacred geometry, like the ways that she sees it within nature or trees or things like that. So I'm really looking forward to that workshop. Again, it's going to take place on Thursday, October 23rd. It's $40 a participant. It's going to be very exciting. I also have my Spirit Talk Mediumship Workshop. This is going to take place this year over Zoom, so it is an online version of the workshop. I've done it many times online and in person, and both of those experiences have been pretty profound. So feel free to join me on Monday, October 27th, 2025. It starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You do need to register before you join in order to receive the link, and that's about $50 a participant. It is an online event, so if you're free and available and you want to do something fun, please join me for that workshop. I don't give mediumship readings to the group. What I do is I run the group through an activity. I teach them about mediumship, and the activity helps them to receive messages, and then they deliver them to each other. So it's instant affirmation and gratification that anyone and everyone can do this. Thank you so much, Lindsay. I appreciate your message there. Nice to see you. I'll add you to the list for sure. And anyone else who might be interested, just let me know. I have 2 spots available. I do cap the free readings at about 6 because each reading takes about 15 minutes to get through. And so that adds, a chunk of time onto the broadcast, about an hour and a half, which makes it about 2 hours long. And I think that's a reasonable amount of time. So if I do reach the cap and there's other people interested in reading, don't fret. I will add you to the draw that's coming up for next month. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, the Soul Intention is hosting a Samhain sound bath on Thursday, October 30th, 2025. I'm really excited about this too. Lots to look forward to. But this is going to be a special sound bath that's done by our shamanic practitioner, Jessica. Jessica Willow. She's going to be using her voice and singing bowls and all sorts of other modalic instruments and spiritual percussions, and just bringing everyone to a very tribal state and primitive, or just what's the word I'm looking for? It just brings you to your authentic self. I can't explain it any better. It's a great experience. Come check it out for yourself. Jessica's going to be focusing on connecting with ancestry and bloodlines for this Samhain event. it will be quite the thing. So come check it out. Oh, awesome. Thank you for that, Lindsay. Tell Eric I said hi back. And then the last thing, well, second last thing that I wanted to talk about was the flow writing workshop happening by our mediumship, Janice Moffat. It's going to be taking place on Thursday, November 6, 2025. Starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's only $20 a participant. Happens here in person at Soul Intention. Check it out. You can go on the website, soulintention1111.ca/events, and you can see all the events that are listed that I mentioned, plus beyond, between now and Christmas, and some of them into the new year. And we'll be adding more as the year comes to a close. So check that out. Lots of exciting things that you can get involved in. Lots of different service providers, different practitioners. And if you see a service provider that's listed on the website and you're curious about or would like to meet them or make an appointment, you can always reach out to us through that website by inquiring about a booking and writing who you're interested, and we will see if we can organize that for you. So the next Tarot Talk live event is going to be happening on Tuesday, November 11th. I always start about 8 o'clock Eastern Time, similar to tonight. And that Tarot Talk live discussion is going to be about the care and maintenance of decks. Proper ways to care and take care of your decks, how to get them to last longer, how to get the most out of your decks. We're going to talk about that next week. But this week we're talking about demystifying tarot. I've received a couple of inquiries and questions and messages about the magic involving tarot. And some of you may be aware that I am a Wiccan high priest of the Sacred Meadow Circle tradition. I do consider myself a witch, and so you know, I do understand magic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that tarot is a magical tool, and I can explain that. I like to look at it as a more of a psychological tool, because the ways in which that my clients associate with the messages received in the cards is where they gain the insight and new perspectives. In no way do I try to guide and steer that during a reading. What I'm doing is interpreting the messages from the cards so that my client can make sense of it. It's my client that makes those association connections, that puts the sense together out of the cards to what's it saying about their lives. Quite often I've done readings where as the reader, I don't really know what the reading is about, but it still ends up being helpful for my sitters or my clients who are receiving the reading, because they're associating the messages to where what they needed to hear for themselves, which is why I like to say in tarot readings that messages are often brought out from within to the surface, which is why my Stafford Tarot logo is the messages within await. It's really about what you need to receive from yourself to yourself, a better way of self-analyzing that inner shadow sense. And that's the biggest benefit of doing tarot readings. So that being said, it's not necessarily a magical tool. It does, the experience can be magical for sure, but it is more of a psychological tool. It does connect you with your inner thoughts, with your inner desires, with your inner feelings, and it helps you make better sense of where that fits and what they're talking about. People who often don't connect with the messages from the tarot either are not associating with the messages, or perhaps they don't want to hear what is actually being brought to the surface, and that can be possible too. You have to be accepting to the messages in order to hear them. Thank you for that, Mike. Definitely I'll add you to the list. And I have one more spot available. If anyone's interested, just let me know, write interested in the chat, and you'll get put on the list too. So just to go over the list just while we're looking at it, I'm going to start the reading with Jody, then Alex, then Meg, then Lindsay, then Mike. So that's the order we're going to go in tonight when we get started on those readings. If there are any questions at all about tarot and how they can be demystified, or if you look at it more from a magical sense, please, I'm very open to other people's opinions, and please feel free to share those comments or questions in the chat as well. Get involved in the discussion. I'd like to give an example on how this association works. So let's just, so the Three of Hearts. Three in numerology for me is often about communication, and swords are heavy thoughts and intellectual processes. So when you think about communication with heavy thoughts, it can often relate to a heavy or hard conversation to have. And so when this card comes up from my client or sitter, or even for myself in self-readings, if this card comes up, I automatically associate with a hard communication to have. And then I start relating and associating that to my life. What's a hard communication that could be happening for me? You know, what is something that may have been hard to communicate either for me or to me, and that I'm aware of? And what could the cards be saying to me about that specific event or situation? If someone didn't have a hard communication to have, they might want to look at a little more carefully as to where that hard communication could be taking place. Sometimes this card can come out for somebody who's not communicating with themselves. You know, you have something you have to realize, or you have this communication that needs to take place. Maybe you need to kick your own ass and getting your own butt off the ground, or you know, getting yourself moving. Or you know, you could be your worst enemy in some way that you need to have this hard conversation, kind of like a self-pep talk. You know, there's lots of different ways that this card can associate to different people's lives, depending on what's happening for you. I would say that the focus of a tarot reading should be on the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the message and how it's associated with the cards. What do you associate with right away when you hear the message as it's being delivered? That's where you gain the insight and perspective. I hope that that makes sense. In the different ways that you can relate to the cards and the different messages that can come out, one card can have different messages. So for example, let's just say we were doing a 3-card pull, and maybe past, present, future, because that's a popular spread that gets used. If we keep on with our example of the 3 of Hearts, or the 3 of Swords stabbing through the heart, for example, if I put that into 3 different positions, it can associate differently depending on the message that comes from the card. So for example, if I put it in the first position about the past, there's this hard communication that took place in the past. Then I'm going to be looking towards my experience on hard communications that I've had. If it was in the present, in the middle section, then it's going to be a communication that either is about to happen or is happening, or in the present or in the recent events. Whereas if I look at it in the third column, which would be the future, it would be a hard communication that hasn't happened yet. And so I'm going to be looking at what the potential hard communications are going to be in order to analyze that for myself. So the different positions that the same card gets put in can slightly create a variance to that association, but it's really about how the client is associating that card, and including where it sits in a spread. I hope that that makes sense. If there's any questions about that, please let me know. Just write them in the chat. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about what magic actually is. I really feel like Hollywood has not done it justice. That, you know, it's great to be entertained and have fantasy and to use our imaginations to entertain ourselves, but it's taking it a bit overboard when you start applying those perspectives to reality. Witches do not break physics. And so, you know, if you think that you're going to snap your fingers and light a candle, or if you think you're going to create sparkles in the air out of your magical rituals and spell work, you're going to be gravely disappointed in what it really means to do magic, and how to do spell work, and of course how to do divination. And tarot cards are a great divination tool. I would say that any divination tool is a psychological tool in essence, because what you're really connecting with in any divination is your intuition. You're connecting with your intuition, these messages from within that come to the surface. That's a big part of psychology. You're really connecting with the subconscious and what the subconscious can tell you. And that's what I find fascinating from a humanist perspective is consciousness isn't fully explained yet by science. And we're getting closer and closer to understanding it, but we're not quite there yet. And I think once we do achieve that understanding of consciousness, other subjects are going to be coming together in our understanding, as well as intuition and premonition and instinct, and all of these areas which can be combined with our consciousness. And I think tarot, when you associate with the messages, help us to connect with those inner underlying conscious messages, that subconscious realm of our minds, where things can be brought to the surface. Tarot is often used for shadow work for that reason. If you're familiar with the term shadow work, I did a whole Tarot Talk live event on that previously, so check that out. Plus you can get more information on that on my other website, askagraywitch.com. Shadow work is really about understanding the inner dynamics of ourselves and allowing that to guide us forward, or with acceptance. And tarot can be great for that because it brings the messages that we need to hear to the surface. It's the first thing that enters our mind when we see that message. What do we associate it with? I agree with you, Alex. Thank you for that message. I was just reading the message that popped up there. The symbols on tarot cards and other divination tools have power because people put energy on them and they enhance that energy. Absolutely. I wouldn't argue with that at all. I think that's how we build our intention when we add that energy to the reading, when we put the association in. For example, asking a question or setting the topic of the reading is an intention of the reading itself. And the symbols and card messages then relate to that topic or question that's being asked. So absolutely, I do believe that the symbols on the tarot cards were not chosen randomly. They are based on occult studies of many different practices, including the Kabbalah and even Egyptian symbolism, and all sorts of different modalities have been brought together into one to create the tarot deck. That's a great question. Thank you so much for that, Alex. And if anyone else has a question, please feel free to put it out there or comment. Trying to think if I covered everything. I think this also explains how different tarot structures can be used for the same purpose. Like there's many different interpretations of the tarot that are out there. All the different types of tarot decks that are not Rider Waite with Smith graphics or symbolisms are interpretations of the same occult symbols put into a different perspective. I did a previous tarot talk on that as well. If you want to look at the difference of different decks or the differences of different decks in tarot, that might be helpful to review. But it's really just about understanding the association. When you bring up that card, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What does it bring to you in your mind? What comes to the surface? And you follow through with that and continue that dynamic reading, bringing those messages to the surface. Tarot can definitely be done for self-analyzation, and sometimes it can be helpful to get someone else to do your reading for you, so that you can associate with the messages that come up. If someone who is maybe more in depth in the knowledge of the symbolisms built on the tarot cards or the imagery that's involved, that might be helpful to get your reading done. But they still come from within you, not necessarily from the reader. I hope that makes sense. Thank you so much, everybody who came on to for this Tarot Talk discussion. Keep in mind that the next Tarot Talk discussion is going to happen on Tuesday, November 11th. I'd love for you to join me. We're going to be talking about the care of decks, how to take good care of your decks so that they last longer, get the most out of them. So if there's any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. Otherwise, we can get started on those free remote distant readings. Jody, if you're on the call, let me know and that you're ready. I'm just reading the comments that's come up here. That's a really good point, Alex. Even just looking at one of the symbolisms of the tarot, like the pentagram, for example, which is one of many witch symbols, it connects on different planes and vibrates on different dimensions, like open a door to another world. I feel tarot cards are the same, as you mentioned, Alex. I think that's a really great point. You know, the pentagram or the pentacle for me in my practice is all about self-empowerment. It connects one spirit to the four other elements or the four other directions, and that's, you know, that's what creates the star symbol, is that one point being connected to the other ones. And no matter how I hold it, I'm connected to all four of those directions or elements. So that, which is why the pentagram in tarot often represents what someone needs for themselves and is usually associated with health or finances. Thank you for that message, Jody, that you're ready to go. Let me know if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on, or if you'd like to leave it general. Quite often when readings are left general, the messages you need to hear are what show up, but it's up to you if you want to try and refine what you're looking for from the reading itself. So I always start my readings with a one-card impression pull. It just lets me know where you're sitting energetically in the moment, Jody, and then I'll move to that topic or question or general reading using my Morgan Greer deck. Jody, for you, I get the Judgment card reversed. This can often be about self-judgment, not necessarily judgment coming out from around you, or the card would have came out like this. But because it's come out like this, I have a feeling that you're a bit hard on yourself for some reason, or you're doing this self-judgment thing. And you want to be careful with that, being too hard on yourself. Give yourself a break. Pat yourself on the back for where you deserve it. Make sure that you're giving yourself the credit that you deserve. Because when the Judgment card is reversed, it's often someone who's really hard on themselves, or you're strict about this, or you're not giving yourself the credit that's due. You may be hard on yourself in a judgmental way where you're self-judging. I hope that that makes sense. So make sure that you give yourself that encouragement, or that you celebrate the actions in which have led to the decisions that you're making today, and try not to be so hard on yourself in terms of that self-judgment. Now I'm going to keep it general as you've requested, and we'll just see what comes up. I'm going to pull 3 cards from this deck, and we'll just look at how those cards associate with each other to get those messages. Really interesting. What's really interesting about this that I noticed right away, Jody, is that they are all higher arcana cards. So this is a really important message that needs to be heard. So I'm going to go card by card, and I want you to listen carefully on where you associate with these messages, okay? But I'm just going to go in the order that they came out. I'm not quite sure how they're connected yet, but I'm going to listen to the messages and see if that determines it, or if these are 3 different important messages to come out. I do feel like they're kind of speaking together, though, so I'm going to follow through with that. This is the Moon card. It's the first card that's come out. The Moon card is often about intuition, following your instincts, trusting your intuition, listening to that intuitive internal voice that tells you when things feel right or things don't feel right, or there's something about this that you can guide, that you can allow to guide you through this. And so the Moon card is not reversed, meaning that you're aware of this power, you have this intuitive sense, and you can use that to help you move forward. Now, the Chariot card reversed is the next card that's come out, and this card is often about not being able to get on the go. There's either a wrench has been thrown into the gears, or you have a sick horse and you're a chariot driver and there's a broken axle. There's something you have to do first to resolve the problem, repair the wagon, so to speak, so that when you can flip this card around, you're off to the races and you're going towards your goal, just like the chariot driver. But in the meantime, it looks like this. There's something that may be holding you back, or you may be feeling like you're not, you may be stumbling or not getting going for whatever reason. So look at what the resolve might be required. Sometimes the Chariot card reversed is often just about repairing that broken wheel so that you can get back in the race and be on the go and reach that goal. When you think about a chariot driver, they have a race to win, and there's a lot of objectives and energy that they have to put out and a lot of skill that needs to be done in order to win that race. And that's what I think it's saying for you. Don't hold back, repair the problem, get back in the race. The Emperor is next. And the Emperor card is usually, for me, it's about responsibility. When you sit in the Emperor's throne, you're taking on this heavy responsibility. Now, the difference between the Empress and the Emperor is that the Empress tends to be more nurturing, caring, and this responsibility affects the people around you. But the Emperor card is a little bit more forceful, a little bit more determined, and there are consequences involved in these kinds of responsibilities. So keep that in mind, that the type of responsibilities, these are not always enjoyed responsibilities. They take effort, they take focus, they take energy, and you have to be determined like the Emperor in order to sit in this Emperor's throne. Now, given that these are three really important messages, I feel like it's trying to guide you forward, Jody, given that there's this responsibility that you can handle, because if you couldn't handle it, it would have came out reversed, but it didn't. It came out like this. So you're able to handle this responsibility. You just have to repair or solve the challenge that's in front of you and use your intuition, allow your instincts to guide you forward. I do hope that this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or if this makes sense to you, Jody. And I'd like to extend on this reading one time using my heart chakra deck. I think that this deck would help with this reading, given that this is such an important message to receive. The heart chakra deck often lets me know what someone needs for themselves. And so if I apply that to this reading, it may give a good perspective moving forward for you. Maybe like some advice. So I'm just focusing that onto this deck and asking this deck to just tell me what you need for yourself. Now, very interestingly enough, 3 more higher arcana cards. Really important messages to receive. You can see how the pattern repeats itself in the tarot. 3 higher arcana, 3 higher arcana. What I find really interesting about this repetitive pattern as well is that you needed to receive important messages about what you needed to receive, and then what you need for yourself is also extremely important. So I'm going to go card by card, similar to what I did before, in just the way that it came out, and I'm just listen carefully for how you associate with these messages. Thank you for that feedback. It does make sense. I'm not sure what to connect with what needs to be fixed. I would watch for that. Whatever's in your way, whatever is a stumbling block for you, whatever is a hurdle that you have to get over, would be why this is reversed. It doesn't always have to be something broken. That's just the example that I use for the chariot itself, if the wheel's busted or the axle's broken. But it's really about getting through a resolve or a challenge, or something that has to be done in order to get going. And once you do that, this card flips around and you're on the go. So in terms of the what you need for yourself, where do I start? I'm going to start I'm going to start here and work my way backwards. I just feel drawn to it that way. This is the control card. 8 and numerology is about reaching that success. And how you reach that success is being in control of yourself, understanding yourself well, understanding how you feel, how you would foresee what's happening. That's what the control card is all about. What's really standing out for me in the card is not only that the rays of light are coming from behind the individual, meaning that they have a light, an internal light that they can shine, but also the cloak they're wearing looks like wings. So this is often about soaring to your heights, going with the flow of things, but you can be in control of this. Now, if this card came out reversed, it would be like, don't feel like you're in control. You kind of have to go with the flow and let loose and just allow the waters to take you where you're going to go. This is saying differently. This is saying that you can be in control of this. Okay? So don't feel like you're losing control of it. The embrace card is reversed. 21 in numerology breaks down to a 3, and this is about how we communicate with ourselves, internal communication with ourselves. And when the card is reversed, it may mean that you need to embrace something within you or find a strength that you can realize for yourself, because there's definitely this strength inside you that you can embrace, this power, this gift, this talent. What's really standing out for me is the light that's shining from the person itself, almost like they're the sun to the planet. And I think once you discover this, what you can embrace about yourself, that's when the card will flip around and you'll be like in your power, in your light. But in the meantime, it looks like this. This needs to be discovered. This needs to be focused on. You may be stronger than you think, or you may be more powerful than you realize. Now, the crown chakra reversed is really interesting because I asked the heart chakra deck for basically advice moving forward, and it's leading us to a different energy center. So if you're familiar with the chakras as energy centers, the heart chakra is about how we feel, what we need for ourselves. The crown chakra is the thought we put into things. And when the crown chakra card comes out reversed, that means that you're either giving things too much thought or not enough thought. And I'll leave it up to you which one that is. But if we're not giving things enough thought, we may lose opportunities, we may not see things through, we may throw ourselves into situations that are not good for us. If we give things too much thought, we might hold ourselves back, or we might overthink things, or that could become overcomplicated. And so finding the sweet spot in that, what's not too much thought, what's not enough thought, what's the right amount of thought that you can give this. And that's what the card is suggesting you need to do. When you do that and you create that balance, that's when the card flips around and you're giving this the right amount of thought. Not too much, not too little. In the meantime, it looks like this. You might want to try and balance that out. Make sure that you're not giving things too much thought or not enough thought. I do hope that this is helpful. I do feel like the bookends of this reading are important, whereas if you can get your crown chakra balance, that's going to give you the control, and you're going to be able to embrace yourself in the journey that you're taking. I do hope that that's helpful, Jody. Let me know if you have any other questions, or if this makes sense, or if anything in this doesn't quite make sense. And I would just watch for those, if there's anything that you feel like's getting in your way in terms of that Chariot card being reversed. Well, thank you so much for receiving your reading. I'll watch for your questions, but I'm going to move on to Alex now. Alex, if you have a topic or question, you can let me know. I'll start with a 1-card impression pull, and then I'll move to the 3-card draw. Oh, thank you for that feedback, Jody, that it is helpful. You're very welcome. Okay, Alex, just let me know that you're on the call, and that if you have a topic or question that you'd like me to focus on. Otherwise, it can be left general. I should take a moment to just mention that on the broadcast, sometimes it takes like 10 to 30 seconds for me to see the messages from my end when they're inputted in. So if you've already inputted your comment or question or request for a reading and I haven't seen it yet, just be patient. I'll work with the technology that I have. A general reading. Thank you so much for that, Alex. Absolutely, you're very welcome. Hi, Mandy. Thanks so much for joining. I do have one spot available left. If you'd like a free reading, just let me know. I'm doing free distant remote readings right now. And right now I'm doing Alex, then I'm moving to Meg, then Lindsay, then Mike, and then I have a free spot available. One last position if you'd like to take it. Just let me know, right interested in the chat. Okay, Alex, I'm going to start with your one card impression pull. That's just going to let me know where you're sitting in the moment. And what I get for you is the 9 of Wands reversed. The card looks like this, and it often represents no longer having to defend your actions. Your actions were very different from everyone else. They looked like this, for example, where Wands represent actions and 9 is like how we reach the end goal. Sorry, I'm just writing down Elizabeth. Absolutely. And Mandy, if you still want that reading because I offered it for you, just let me know, and that will be the capped readings for tonight. So anyone else who might be interested in a reading who's watching the live, you can still let me know you're interested in readings, and I will add you to the draw that's coming up. That draw date will be released on my website, staffordtarot.com. So thank you for that, Elizabeth. And Mandy, I saw your message there, so you're definitely included as well. So I'll give you both readings just because they kind of came in at the same time. Awesome. Thank you for those messages. So Alex, back to you. When the card looks like this, it's usually that your actions are different from the other actions around you. You've kind of stepped out of line, so to speak, in terms of how it looks on the card. When it's reversed, it means that that has been to your benefit, or that you're no longer feeling differentiated. This is about doing you, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing selfish about putting yourself first. So keep that in mind as we move forward in this, okay? Now, you wanted a general reading, and so I'm just going to pull 3 cards from this deck, and we'll look at how those cards speak to each other to get those messages. So 2 higher arcanas and a court card has come out. Now court cards are all about decision making and the directions that we take in life. And so I'm going to start there and then go to these 2 higher arcanas. So the practical message is the court card, the King of Cups. Cups represent emotion in tarot, and kings are decision makers. Just like the Emperor and the Empress, there's differences between kings and queens as well. Queens tend to be more nurturing, caring, and those decisions affect the people around you. And kings tend to be more forceful, direct, and there are consequences involved in these kinds of decisions. So keep that in mind, Alex. I think that you have some emotional decisions to make, and that's why the King of Cups is shown up here. If this was reversed, you would not be able to sit in this throne. These would be too difficult of decisions to make. So just know that it came out this way, meaning that you're able to sit in this throne and make these decisions. Keep in mind that these are either going to be emotional decisions or decisions that you have to make that inflict emotion. But either way, you're able to sit in that throne and make those decisions. So keep that in mind. The card I want to talk about is the World card reversed. This is often about not changing your perspective. There's no need to change the way you're looking at the world. If you're changing your perspective, you may want to look back at what is meaningful for you and what that perspective should look like for what's important to you. If it was this way, it would be like, consider the different perspectives. Nudity in tarot is usually about vulnerability, and you can see that person there very vulnerable in the center of all this, all that's happening in their world, and these different perspectives around them. When it's this way, it's like there's nothing wrong with your perspective. There's no need to change this internal view. hold your own. Do what's important to you. What is your perspective that's meaningful? And then the Fool card reversed is often about you feeling like you don't know what you're doing when everyone around you looks at you like you know exactly what you're doing. Everyone sees you as being in control, being determined, being focused, and yet you don't feel like you're in control or that you have that focus. If the card came out this way, it would be the other way around. Everyone's looking at you like you're the fool, like you don't know what you're doing, and you internally know exactly what you're doing. So when the Fool card is reversed, the way that it's speaking for me tonight, it's almost like the reverse of that, where you are questioning where you're at, what you're doing, and everyone seems to have an appreciation or an encouragement for you. Let me know how that fits for you, Alex, if that makes sense. I feel like you may have quite the decision to make if you're needing to or feeling like your perspective is changing. But as long as you keep your perspective and you find what's important to you, you're going to be able to make that choice for yourself. I'm wondering if I could move to my Zen deck to extend further on this reading. My Zen deck gives great interaction of energies, the description of interactions of energies, and if I focus on that in this reading, it may give us some indication of this hard decision and where it might lead. Now, I do need to mention that because this is sort of a future forecast on where that decision leads, I just want to make aware that nothing is structured or static in the future. Everything is liquid. The decisions that you make between now and then can change the forecast of the reading. So if the reading says that you're headed towards something that you don't like or don't want, you can make decisions now to try and prepare for that, or to change your route, or it's really up to you. We can empower ourselves. These are really interesting. You got one higher arcana, two suits, and the suits are air cards. Or sorry, water cards, which is all about emotion and intuition. I'm actually going to start there. The first one is Harmony card. 10 in numerology breaks down to a 1, which is all about spiritual development. And the Harmony card is often about listening to yourself, following that intuitive sense, what's important to you spiritually. It's about communicating that to yourself and listening carefully to yourself in that communication to find where you fit spiritually. The next card is the Friendliness card reversed. This is a 2. 2 is usually about partnership. It's about how we integrate with the people around us. Doesn't always have to be like spousal partnership. It can be like a business agreement or any kind of agreement or partnership that comes together. But what's really standing out for me is how the branches are intertwining between these two trees, and they're doing it in such a harmonious way. And the colors are really standing out for me in the card too. And that doesn't normally stand out for me. Now, I may not see the colors in the same way as other people, but the associations are there. And what I really think that this is trying to say is I think it's try not to be over friendly. I think that what this card is really saying is not allow yourself to be taken advantage of by spreading your branches and being quite open, and I think you want to be careful creating a vulnerability for yourself, if that makes sense. Now the next card's really interesting. It's basically saying that there's no need to change. This is the Transformation card reversed. When we go through a huge transformation, we often see this card, but it's actually suggesting the opposite. You need to just hold your own. You need to stand your ground. You need to be truthful to yourself, understand what you need for yourself, and not go through this drastic transformation. You can kind of see that being repeated in itself, because not changing your perspective could be the transformation that it's referring to. I do hope that this is helpful, Alex. Oh, thank you about that. It makes sense. It's about my love life, I think. Well, I do hope that this helps and that the interaction is helpful in this and where we extended further. I don't think there's anything you need to change about yourself in this, and I think you just want to be careful being too open or vulnerable in some way, and just follow your heart. You know, trust your instincts, follow your heart. You know, this will come together in a spiritual way. And don't change your perspective. I really think that turning this card around might be helpful for you if you're feeling like you're lost or stuck, or you feel like you're the fool. Switch that card around and do what you want to do. Find the desires that you have internally. Solve that for yourself, and then you'll know exactly what you're doing, even if everyone else doesn't. Thank you for getting your reading, Alex. Oh, I see your message there. Thank you. You're welcome. I do hope that this helps. So I'll put the cards away unless there's any other questions that come up, and I'll move to Meg. Meg Ferris, if you're still on the call, let me know, and if you have a topic or question you'd like me to focus on for the reading. Otherwise, it can be left general like it has been tonight. While we're waiting for Meg's response on the chat, or perhaps I'm waiting for it because it takes a while to receive to me, I'll just quickly mention that normally all of my rates and services are listed on my website, staffordtarot.com, as well as the soulintention1111.ca website. And usually my readings are short readings. They take about 15 minutes for $25, or I do full readings in a half an hour for $50. And so each one of these readings is considered a short reading. It's what you would get from a short remote reading as well as an in-person reading, except of course there's much more dynamic involved in an in-person reading as well as in the remote reading. This is more distant, which is why I like to offer them for free to the live events. I think it's a great way to just have some fun in the night, or get to know me or how I do my readings. Just waiting for Meg to let me know that you're available and that you're interested in a reading. What I might do if I don't receive a response is move to Lindsay, and then I'll come back to Meg to make sure that she's on the call to receive her reading. So I'll just give another moment for that. Just clearing my decks while I take a moment. Okay, Lindsay, if you're on the call, let me know and I'll check in with Meg later in the call. Maybe she lost her connection or had to stepped out for a reason, and she might be back. And so Lindsay, if you're on the call, let me know, and if you have a topic or question you'd like to ask, or it can be left general. Like I said, quite often when readings are left general, it's the messages you need to hear that come up, but it's up to you if you want to refine what you're looking for from the reading itself. Awesome. Hi, Lindsay. I see that you're there. I'll start with that one card impression pull. It's just going to let me know where you're sitting energetically in the moment. A general reading? Absolutely. I just saw that pop up there. Lindsay, for you, I get the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is about creating structure and groundedness within your home. So I like to call this the happy household or the happy home card, because as you can see, with the grounding that's been created, there's this celebration going on, this happy home. The castle's really standing out for me in the background, and so I really think that this is related to home life or lifestyle, and it's really about creating that grounding and structure for yourself. So let me know if that makes sense, and I'll move on to the general reading. So I'm just going to pull 3 cards from this deck, and we're just going to look at those 3 cards on how they communicate together to get those messages. So, Wands, Cups, and Pentacles. Where to start? I'm just going to go in the order that they came out. This is the 8 of Cups, reversed. And what this often means is no longer walking away from these emotions to find higher ground. When it's this way, it often, you see the person walking away from the cups towards the mountains. They're walking away from these emotions. They are not dealing with this right now. They're going to go find some stability and groundness. This means that you've come back to this. You may have walked away from these emotions, but you've come back to it. You're sorting these out. You're sorting through your cups. You're no longer walking away from these emotions to find higher ground. This often leads to stability and groundedness, because when we work through our emotions, we understand ourselves much better, or the situations that we're in, and we can resolve them, or we can take on those challenges in a different way, because we're doing it with love, or we're doing it with emotion, sorting through that emotion. So keep that in mind. I'm actually going to go to this card next. I feel like I should, in the order of the reading, so I'm just going to follow through with that. The next card that I have is the 5 of Wands. This is where your actions are up against other people's actions, and it feels like a deadlock. Almost like, as you can see here, all the different wands hitting each other and holding their own. It's almost like a competition of some kind. And it's really about the actions that you implement or that you take. And so your actions may feel like up against other people's actions. Now, 5 is usually a pivotal point in numerology. What this means is that I like to look at it as a journey from 0 to 10. I often explain it this way, that when you get to 5, you have just as much effort and distance to continue counting to 10 as you do as going back to the 1, going back to the drawing board. So it's really a pivotal point. It's about making a choice. Is it in my best interest to continue on, or is it my best interest to go back? And it shows that there was this pivotal point or choice that needs to be made. So keep that in mind as well, because with this choice that's made about the actions, your actions up against other people's actions, and then no longer walking away from these emotions, I have a feeling you have what it takes to make those choices and take that action. And then we have the Knight of Pentacles. Knights are the action takers in tarot, and Pentacles are about what you need for yourself. So taking the action to do what you need for yourself, or to gain what you need for yourself. This is often money or health. I do feel like it's sort of health related, and what's really standing out for me is the armor. Almost like you've been protecting yourself in some way, or you've put your armor up, you have your shield up. And this is the Knight of Pentacles, meaning to take action in some way in what you need for yourself. This could be taking action in a way that is suitable for you. So keep that in mind as well, because I think that what this really speaks to is an opening or an awakening of some kind. And this awakening could have to do with you being in this position, this happiness, structure, and grounding being created in a household. I do hope that this makes sense, Lindsay. And I'm wondering where I can move forward in this. I'm thinking my Witch's Wisdom deck may be helpful in this, just looking at what can be brought to the surface from deep within. Oh, thank you for that feedback, Lindsay. I appreciate that. This is bang on. I'm glad that it has created enlightenment for you. So in this part of the reading, I'm going to ask this deck, my Witch's Wisdom deck, what you need to hear most for yourself. What's the message that is internal that needs to come to the surface? I think that that might be helpful. Cards are shuffling funny, like they want to be in a specific order. I'm going to follow through with that. Higher Arcana, 2 suits, practical. Oh, sorry, this is more of a Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, this is more of a court card and two elements. A court card, two elements, court card, two elements. So I think that's fascinating. There's this repetitive pattern that we're starting to see. And so I'm going to follow through with that. I think this is really about empowerment because the court card that's come out, and I'm going to start there, is the Witch of Earth. This is about putting out your desire and manifestations to create grounding and structure in what you need for yourself. It's a perfect card to go along with the Knight of Pentacles, which is about taking action in terms of what you need for yourself. And the Witch of Earth, Earth is similar to Pentacles, only the Witch is about making the decisions moving forward. This, you can compare this card to the Queen of Pentacles. And so it's really about making decisions about what you need for yourself. What is your desire, and what do you need? What are the decisions you need to make to get that to you or get yourself there? Now, the Three of Water is reversed. This often represents lifting some sort of heavy protection. It shows here the Three of Water in the way that it normally looks, where it has three geese or three ducks, and they're kind of found shelter under this willow tree during the fog. It's about communicating that protection to yourself, and this is kind of saying that the fog has lifted. There's less reason to protect yourself, less reason to protect the people around you, more open. It's kind of like having a clear day. And then the Ten of Air reverse is often about doing something your own way, not going with the flow of everyone else. If you look at the imagery of starlings, starlings are those birds that fly in huge groups in the sky, and they kind of coordinate and synchronize their flight into these big multi-virginal clouds or verging clouds. And when it's like this, it means going with the flow, synchronize with the other birds, so to speak. But it's reverse, saying do this your own way, fly your own path, take your own direction. Don't follow and just go along with the flow of everyone else. I do hope that this is helpful, Lindsay. When I look at the way these cards may relate to themselves, you have cups, you have pentacles, you have wands, you have no swords. And I think it's just as important to look at what doesn't show up as what does, because what does show up are the messages you needed to hear. So you needed messages about what you're feeling, what you need, and the actions that you're taking, but not about the ways in which you're thinking about this. There's no swords. And so swords represent heavy thoughts and intellectual processes. And so take that as confirmation, Lindsay, that you probably have the right mindset. You're thinking about this the right way. That's why swords aren't trying to guide you. I do hope that this is helpful. Oh, thank you for that feedback, Lindsay. That's probably the most bang-on reading I've ever had. I do hope that this is helpful. Quite often the messages that are received are what you need to hear for yourself, depending on how you associate and relate to the messages. So I'm glad to hear that this has been profound for you, and that, I hope it leads to something helpful. When I bring this reading right back to where you're sitting energetically in the moment, this creating grounding and structure for yourself, I think it does. It does seem that way, that there's this empowerment or this developmental aspect to this. Well, thank you so much for getting your reading from me. Oh, thank you for that feedback. So helpful. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. So Meg, if you're on the call, we can try again, and you can let me know if you're interested in a topic or question. Meg Ferris. If I'll just watch for your message. Otherwise, I'll move to Mike Farrell. So if I don't get a message from Meg, I'll move to Mike, and we'll just keep an eye on Meg for her to join us again. If maybe we've lost her, she got disconnected. If Meg does not show up on this call by the time I go through all the readings, I will be reaching out to her just to make sure that she doesn't miss out on the opportunity to get that reading. So I don't see Meg. Mike, are you on the call? Do you want to go next? If you can let me know about a topic or question that you have, or it can be left general. As you've seen tonight, quite often the readings that are left general are messages that you just need to hear for yourself, but it's up to everyone if you want to refine what you're looking for from the reading session. So just let me know that you're on the call. I do like to get a response from my sitters just to make sure that they are paying attention or receiving the messages. These can always be re-watched on my Facebook as well as on my website, staffordtarot.com. Oh, thank you for that, Mike. I see your messages. For sure, yep, and a general, please. Absolutely. So if anyone wants to re-watch your reading, or if you're interested to just watch the other readings that took place, you can always go back to my website after the broadcast. I usually post it right away afterwards. So it may take about a half an hour to an hour to appear, and then it's there for everyone to watch. And you can even go back at previous recordings if you're interested in the Tarot Talk topics. All of the Tarot Talk topics that I've been giving for the past 4 years are on my website. Okay, Mike, this card's for you. I've got the Four of Cups. This is often about connecting with childhood memories or something from your past. It doesn't have to go all the way back to your childhood, but what's really standing out for me is the comparison in size of the two main characters on the card. Almost like the child is much bigger than the adult, and when that stands out for me, it often does come from quite a bit into our past. So keep that in mind. You could be processing some emotions from your past or something connected to perhaps that started in your childhood. Let me know if that makes sense for you, Mike. And now I'm going to pull 3 cards from this deck. I'm going to keep it general, and we're just going to look at the messages you needed to hear today. Now the first thing I notice, Mike, about the cards is that they're a little rigid. They're kind of hitting each other. That's often a sign for me that when I'm connecting with someone's energy that they may not go with their own flow of their own energy. So when you come up with a decision for yourself, you're kind of your worst enemy on that. You may second guess yourself. You may not go with the flow of your own. And so just keep watch for that, okay? Try not to be too hard on yourself or second guess yourself. If it feels right for you, it's probably right. Now, really interesting cards have come out, a higher arcana and 2 court cards. I'm going to talk about the 2 court cards because I feel like they're speaking together, and then I'll go move on to that higher arcana card. Which one to start? This is the Page of Cups. It came out like this. It was not reversed. And a Page of Cups is often about not taking something so seriously. Maybe having a bit of a sense of humor, maybe the phrase lighten up a little. But this is about not being so strict or determined. The fish coming out of the cup is really standing out for me, and that's often about immaturity, humor, having a sense of laughter, perhaps, looking for the humor out of a situation. When the card comes out like this, it's like no more humor, no more immaturity. Take this seriously. When it's this way, it's like maybe you are taking it a little too seriously and you need to find the humor in this, or maybe lighten the load a little. You could be heavy on yourself about this. Now, the Queen of Pentacles is usually about having to make an important decision for yourself. What's really standing out for me is the crown and the jewelry, and so I feel like this pentacle could be related to prosperity, making decisions in terms of prosperity, possibly financial decisions. And so try not to be too hard on yourself in terms of these financial decisions, because I do feel like these court cards are speaking together. So this Queen of Pentacles making these important financial decisions, and give yourself a break. Maybe they're tough decisions and you need to find the humor in this, or you need to express some relief in some way. Now, the Moon card reversed is what comes up next, and I find this really interesting with a important decision to make and choosing the path that you're going to go in it with it, and yet it's saying that you're not listening to your intuition or trusting your intuition. There could be some inkling feeling that you have that you're not quite following through with, and that's what this card is trying to tell you, that you do have your intuition. Otherwise, the moon card wouldn't appear on the table at all. When it's reversed, it often means that someone's not connecting with their intuition, even though that it's there. So opening that up for yourself, maybe trying to quiet your mind of everything else that's going on so that you can hear your intuition more clearly, maybe the first maybe advice to give. But I think you can connect with your intuition, and when you do, that's when this card flips around and you're now understanding and connecting with your intuition. You're following your instincts. You're trusting that inkling feeling. In the meantime, it looks like this. I think that your intuition might be able to help you with these big decisions moving forward. Now, given that there are these decisions about what you need for yourself, I'm going to extend further using my heart chakra deck. As I mentioned before, this deck gives great insight in terms of what someone needs for themselves. And so I'm just going to connect with that and see if it can give you a good approach moving forward. Now, again, what I notice is that the cards are kind of rigid. They're kind of hitting each other, not wanting to get into the positions. And so this may not be the easiest advice for you to follow. Two higher arcana cards and a suit have come out. The suit is equivalent to a pentacle. It's an earth card. I'm going to start there. It's about moving on. There's something that you need to move on from. What's really standing out for me is the water and how the waves are approaching the footsteps that are left behind on the beach. And that's often about letting go of something, allowing the water to wash away the footprints. This is about healing. Water is very healing symbolism for me, and that's what's standing out for me on the card. And so in order for you to reach the success, 8 in numerology is about success, and the green color around the border tells me that this is a pentacle card, it's an earth card, and so it's about reaching success in what you need for yourself. You kind of have to work through what you've been through. This goes hand in hand with where you're at now with these memories. What you need to let go of could come from your childhood. So keep that in mind, Mike. The next 2 cards are, I feel like they're speaking together, so I'm going to talk about them together, okay? It's the Rebuild card and the Heart Chakra card. Now, what I find really interesting about this, I asked the Heart Chakra deck for insight, and it pointed us to the Heart Chakra card. Now, the Heart Chakra card is often about our heart chakra energy center. It's whether we love or not love. Quite often this can be about others. It can be about ourselves. It's really generally when we have that, what we need for ourselves, and we have that understanding of what we need for ourselves, we're connected with our heart chakra. And so if your heart chakra is too open and you're loving everybody, or you create a vulnerability for yourself, you're probably going to be taken advantage of. If your heart chakra is not open enough, you may not be giving the support and care to the people around you. And so finding that perfect center, that sweet spot in your heart chakra, what's not too much, what's not too little, finding that perfect amount for you so that it makes sense. And then this is about a rebuild. You're doing something that's enhancing yourself. You're creating this spiritual change for yourself. I see you on a path of development and enlightenment, Mike. And it's connected to your heart chakra. And so when you create this, you're creating this balance, or this card would come out reversed, okay? So you're doing the right things. You're creating this balance for yourself, and that in turn is jump-starting this path towards this spiritual enlightenment. So the more that you work on this, the better. And the key, I think, is working through your past. There's something in your past that could be holding you back or slowing you down. Does this make sense, Mike? Let me know your thoughts or comments, or if there's anything here that doesn't quite fit. Now, when I look at this reading as a whole, you have cups, pentacles, equivalent to pentacles, and 3 higher arcana cards. Now, 3 in numerology for me, because of the higher arcana cards, is often about communicating with yourself. two are not reversed, one's reversed, which means that you're missing a portion of that message. So not quite listening to your true intention, perhaps, maybe not connecting with your intuition, but there's definitely this communication that needs to clear up for yourself. Thank you so much for that comment. So much to think about. Very interesting. I would keep this in mind moving forward and see if it's helpful. Just know that the light that's shining on this card is really standing out for me, and so I don't think it's about changing who you are. It's about improving and developing on the light that's already there. It's about you getting yourself to shine that light even brighter. What I mean by light is a skill, a talent, something special within you. I do hope that this is helpful. You're very welcome, Mike. Thank you for the comment there. So I'll put the cards away. And I'm going to reach out to Meg again. Meg, if you're on the call, let me know. I really would like to offer you that reading. And then we just have Mandy and Elizabeth left in the list. And so I'm going to go in the order that I saw the comments appear to me. And so Mandy, if you're ready, if you want to just let me know a topic or question that you have, or it can be left general, and then we'll move to Elizabeth. So I'm just going to clear my decks, and I'll still keep watch for Meg Ferris. And if I don't receive that message, like I said, I will be reaching out to you on Facebook, because that's where the broadcast is taking place. And we will we'll find out if you can still receive a reading. Maybe I'll offer you a remote reading. Thank you, Mandy. You're here, and General, absolutely. I'm going to start with that one card impression pull that just lets me know where you're sitting energetically in the moment. What I get for you, Mandy, is the Seven of Swords. This is often for someone who's carrying so much on your mind. Seven is spiritual development, and swords are heavy thoughts and intellectual processes. And you can see here, the main character on the card is carrying way more than they can handle, to the point where they've had to put swords down and leave them behind. Now, these are heavy thoughts that maybe that are not theirs anymore, and that's what I'm getting from this. I don't think they're going to come back and collect these heavy thoughts once they've dropped them. I think that they're dropping heavy thoughts that no longer belong to them. These are heavy thoughts that don't serve them well, and they're letting them go to move forward on their path. It makes the load lighter with all the heavy thoughts that you have to carry and that you have to process. So keep in mind, you could be carrying heavy thoughts that are not actually yours. You may be taking on some sort of responsibility for an intellectual process of some kind, and you need to learn to let go of what doesn't serve you, drop those swords that aren't yours, and move on with what you have to carry. Now, in a general reading, I just pull 3 cards from my main deck. Tonight I'm using the Morgan Greer deck. And then we can extend further into another. Now, this is a general reading. A High Arcana, a Court, 2 Court cards and a High Arcana, actually. I'm going to start at the Court cards and work my way to that Higher Arcana card. The first one that I'm drawn to is the Knight of Rods reversed. Now, knights are the action takers, and rods are about the actions we have to take. And so when you get the Knight of Rods, it's often about really important action that needs to happen. Sometimes it can be a defensive action because of the amount of important action that's involved, and it's reversed, meaning that you can put that behind you now. You've taken this important action and you've moved forward, and now you can move from it. Okay. The Page of Swords is often about getting into a new direction in terms of what's on your mind. So these thoughts that you're carrying with you are going to lead you into a new direction. And that's what the Page of Swords represents. Pages are sort of like the messengers in tarot. You know, you have the king and queens, and they're the decision makers, and then you have the knights that are the action takers, and the pages take the messages from the knights, between the knights and the king and queen. So they're looked at as sort of the go-getters. They're kind of like what gets you into a new direction, and that's what the symbolism is around the page. When you have a page of swords, it's this thought, this idea, or this mindset that's moving you into a new direction. Now, the higher arcana card is the Empress card reversed. This is often meaning that you're carrying some sort of responsibility that's not yours. So this would be a responsibility that affects the people around you, and when it's this way, it means it is your responsibility. You're going to sit in the Empress position and take on that responsibility. When it's this way, it means it may not be your responsibility, or a responsibility that you want to take on. So keep that in mind. I think you need to learn to let go of this responsibility of some way and move forward with this new idea or heavy thought. Where I think that is where you're sitting in the moment with the Seven of Swords. Meaning that, you got to let go of those thoughts that aren't yours. That could have to do with that responsibility to let go of as well. Now, I am wondering where I can extend on this reading further. I think I'm going to go back to my heart chakra deck in terms of what you need for yourself. I think that might be a good direction to take this reading, just simply because of this responsibility and not being able to take this action, or having be able to put that behind you, and then this new thought process that moves you into a new direction. So let's look at what that new direction might look like. I do hope that this makes sense. Let me know your comments just to make sure that I'm on the right track here. Now, you have a high arcana, 2 suits. This is a high arcana, again, another chakra card. Interestingly enough, the chakra deck is pointing us to a lot of different energy centers. I'm going to start there. I feel like that's the important place to start. This is the crown chakra, Mandy. And what it means often, first of all, 7 in numerology is about spiritual development. And the crown chakra is about how you give this thought process. It's how we think about this. That's why it's the crown chakra. And it's not reversed, meaning that you're creating a balance in your crown chakra. So when there's an imbalance, it means that you're giving things too much thought or not enough thought. This is suggesting that you're giving things the right amount of thought. You have balanced out your crown chakra. So keep that in mind. You're giving this the right amount of thought. You're putting this in the right mindset or perspective. Now, the joy and stability card is next. It's about finding the joy and stability in your path. Look for the humor. Look for the joy. Where's the stability? 4 is about grounding and stability, and the color around the card tells me that it's a water card. It's about emotion and intuition. When we use emotion to create grounding, or we get grounding in our emotions, it's often about creating that stability for ourselves, acceptance of our emotions, processing how we're feeling. And I feel like you're doing that. You're coming to that grounding. As well as the next card is the 3 of water, which represents communicating your emotions to yourself. And this card is the take the lead. You're going to take the lead. You're going to empower yourself. What's really standing out for me is this ball of fire that's coming from the hand. And it's really about empowerment, empowering yourself. And there's a healing involved in this. So if you've been held back from taking a lead, that would be the healing, is you being able to take that lead and move forward. You're communicating this with yourself. I do hope that this is helpful. Oh, thank you, Mandy, for that comment. It's so affirming. Thank you. You're very welcome. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll start putting the cards away and I'll move on to Elizabeth. Thank you so much for getting your reading from me. So Elizabeth, if you're on the call, thank you so much for your patience and waiting. I'm happy to offer you a card, a reading, a short, distant, remote reading, if you let me know that you're on the call and if you have a topic or question to ask. Oh, you're very welcome, Mandy. Blessed be. I'm so glad it's helpful. So I'm looking for Elizabeth. Elizabeth, if you're on the call, let me know. And if you have a topic or question you'd like to ask or for me to focus on, otherwise I can leave it blank in general. Hi Elizabeth, thanks for your message. I see you there. Awesome, you're here. And do you have a topic or question I can begin with? I'm going to start with that one card impression pull that just tells me where you're sitting energetically in the moment. General, absolutely. For you, Elizabeth, I get the Knight of Pentacles. This is often about taking action in terms of what you need for yourself. Now, the pentacle itself is standing out for me, and so I do feel like this could be financial action or action that leads to prosperity or involving prosperity in some way. And the way the horse is standing is also really prominent in the graphic. And so I really feel like there's this stature that's involved in this. That could be stability or holding your own. Let me know how you resonate with that. But I do feel like it's really about taking action in terms of what you need for yourself. Now, because it's general, I'm just going to focus on that and pull 3 cards from this deck, and then we'll be able to extend further into another deck, depending on where that might be helpful. So a Higher Arcana, 2 suits. These are more practical cards. I'm going to go through the practical cards and work my way up to that Higher Arcana. This is the 9 of Swords. It did not come out reversed, and what this often represents are heavy thoughts that are binding and holding you back. You can see the ropes binding this person together, like their arms are kind of tied. And swords represent heavy thoughts and intellectual processes. So these heavy thoughts are literally binding and holding you back. So the more that you process these heavy thoughts, the more this card flips around and you're able to cut those binds and no longer be held back. In the meantime, it looks like this. You may be putting some heavy thoughts on yourself, Elizabeth, or a heavy thought process, intellectual processes that are making you feel drained or tied up. And just work through these swords. The advice that often comes with this card is if you work through one sword at a time, don't look at all the thoughts all at once, but categorize them into sections so that you can work through a little bit at a time, and then you're getting somewhere instead of being overwhelmed by it all at once. This is the 9 of Cups. It represents working through your emotions, getting everything in check, understanding the emotional process that's involved. You've organized your cups into a row. If you didn't, it would be reversed and you'd still be in the process of understanding your emotions and organizing these cups. It's showing me here that these are already organized, Elizabeth, and so you understand your emotions well. If I gave you a hypothetical idea or scenario, you would know exactly how you would feel and how you would respond to that emotionally because you know yourself that well. And that's what this card represents. So maybe that's the place to start in terms of working through these heavy thoughts is your emotion is like your power source. You have your emotions all organized and figured out. You know how you feel about these heavy thoughts. You just have to figure out why they're holding you back. And this might be an indication of that. The Emperor card reversed, meaning this is about some sort of responsibility that you don't feel like is yours, or that you don't want to sit in this throne or not able to sit in the throne of the Emperor. Now, as I mentioned before, emperors tend to be more direct, focused, and there are consequences involved in these kinds of responsibilities. And so if there's consequences involved in a responsibility that you feel like already isn't yours, that can be a difficult position to be in. If you accept this responsibility, that's where the card flips around and you're sitting in the Emperor's position. But in the meantime, it looks like this. I don't think it's your responsibility to carry at this time. That may have to do with the heavy thoughts that are holding you back. I do hope that this is helpful, Elizabeth. Let me know your thoughts. I'm wondering where I can extend on this reading further. I am being pulled to another deck. This is my pagan deck. It works really well at describing a balance that's required. It uses the depiction of like ritual life versus mundane life, and creating a balance between that, like work and ritual, or work and spirituality. And I'm going to use that to look at the balance that's involved in this, given that it's, this responsibility, and you've worked through these emotions, you understand how you're feeling about this really well. It's just the thought processes. Oh, thank you for that feedback, Elizabeth, that this makes sense. Absolutely. So High Arcana, 2 suits. High Arcana, 2 suits. We're seeing that repetitive pattern again. Really interesting that that's been happening a lot tonight, because repetitive patterns are often about trying to reiterate that message, hammering home the points. If you do a tarot reading and then you do another tarot reading and they're repetitive patterns or repetitive messages, it usually represents that someone's not listening. So in terms of the balance that needs to be created, I'm going to work my way towards that higher arcana. This is the 4 of Pentacles. It's about finding grounding in what you need for yourself, gathering your supplies, getting things ready, understanding what you need in order to make this work, creating a balance in terms of what you need. It's all about grounding and structure for yourself. As well as we have the 4 of Cups. Now the 4 of Cups are about, I like to call this the what if card. It's understanding what you have emotionally and then thinking about, well, what if I made that choice differently? Or what if I, like understanding the possibilities of your actions and where they could have led if you made different choices. And we often have to appreciate what we have in this situation. So keep that in mind. If you're saying what if, try and look at what it is that you do have, because you definitely have this stability of emotions. And this is an emotional card. Now the next card is the Hermit card. It's about feeling like this is all on you. It's on your shoulders, it's on yourself, and you start to go introverted and you're working this out and it's all on you. And I think what this card is really representing is that perhaps that's the process that's needed to go internal, work out that thought process, those emotions, those thoughts that are in your way, what you need for yourself. I really think that maybe journaling or shadow work may be recommended in this. That's what's standing out for me most in the card, is that she's writing this sort of letter, and it looks like she's got some diaries around her, and she's really working through this thought process. And for me, what stands out in the card is shadow work. Writing yourself a letter, telling yourself how you feel is one example of a shadow work exercise that can be really helpful, because you can reread back how you talk to yourself. What's the wording that you use? And that can give you a lot of insight in terms of where you're at and how you treat yourself. That also might help you work out this responsibility, or maybe that's a way of getting through these heavy thoughts if you can break them down. I do hope that this is helpful, Elizabeth. Let me know if you have any questions. When I look at this reading as a whole, you have swords, you have cups, you have pentacles, no wands. And as I mentioned earlier, I think it's sometimes just as important to look at what doesn't show up as what does, because what has shown up are the messages you needed to hear, such as the heavy thoughts that are involved, the emotions that are involved in what you need for yourself. Wands represent the actions that need to be taken. And because the cards are not trying to direct you in your actions, I think you can take that as affirmation, that you're actually taking the right actions. Otherwise, the cards would be saying different with wands. Does that make sense? And so follow through with that. Listen to that, how it feels for you and the actions that you need for yourself. I do hope that this is helpful. When I bring this reading right back to where you are now, taking action in terms of what you need, that just goes hand in hand with it. I think that this is like the here and the now. Thank you so much for getting your reading from me. Meg, if you're on the call, let me know. This is your last chance to receive it tonight. Otherwise, I will try to reach out to you. Thank you, everybody, for participating. If you are interested in the Tarot Talk live event discussions, please feel free to go to my website, staffordtarot.com. You can click on the Tarot Talk live event section, or you can go into the blog and change it to the live events section, and it will show you all of the pre-recorded Tarot Talk live events between now and like literally the past 4 years. Each one has a different topic of discussion that can help you understand and learn tarot for yourself. I also have on my website a Learn to Do For Yourself section, which highlights the Tarot Talk, but also highlights online video lessons, as well as associations and learning to read, and suggestions and tips, and all sorts of helpful strategies in order to learn to do tarot for yourself. So if that interests you, check out my website, staffordtarot.com. If you want to sign up for any of the workshops that are coming up, either the remote workshops or the in-person in Guelph, Ontario, feel free to visit soulintention1111.ca. And if you have any questions that you want to submit about witchcraft or tarot readings or any kind of divination style, you can always submit those questions on my other website, askagraywitch.com. Thank you so much for everyone who joined me on this call and received readings tonight. I really appreciate seeing everyone. We got a lot of familiar faces tonight, and that was really nice. Some names I haven't seen for a while, so that was really cool. And check out the website and all the information for anything that interests you. And if you have any questions or any concerns or anything that you want to bring to me, all of those websites have interactivity that you can reach out to me, or you can contact me through my email, bryantarotreading@gmail.com, or call me. Give me a phone call. 519-835-1749 is my business number. So take good care. I do wish you all well and bright blessings. And I will look forward to talking with you again on the next Tarot Talk Live event, which is going to take place on Tuesday, November 11th. It's going to start at 8 o'clock p.m., similar to tonight, and that's going to be about caring for your decks. Take good care. Bye.